tonight's guest speaker, the reason we're all here. Chuck Holland I met as I served on various committees, and it was always the reason I like to go. He's an excellent presenter, always has something interesting to say. And between he and Eileen, I was always brought up to date. And so we're here tonight to talk about information technology. And let's go ahead and welcome Chuck as he comes to talk about us.
Thanks, Steve. Let's see if we can test out this mic. Can you hear me okay? Can everybody hear me okay? I just wanted, before we get into the presentation, just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Chuck Holland. I work for Information Technology Department. I work for VMS. I've been here for, I think it's about going on 5 years here pretty quick, and I've done all kinds of manner of things for the community. I actually came on to actually work in the Information Technology Department, but because of different people retiring in the community, the transition from PCM to self-manage, it really just been a floater in the community. Once I came on board here, I was here for 6 months, and then we had a retirement in broadband services with Russ Ridgway. He retired and moved back east. So I stepped in and ran the broadband services divisions for a couple of years there, along with TV6, and what you guys know Paul Ortiz, right? And also the cable TV operations. And then I did a little stint down in resident services. We had some retirements down in resident services, so I spent a good year and a half or so down in resident services. I didn't get as much done down in resident services as I liked last year, because guess what happened? The whole world turned upside down with a 100-year pandemic, right? That was something to behold. We did get a chance to meet with this team last year, about I think October, November, sometimes this last year, and I got a chance to really talk about something similar to what we're going to talk about tonight, and that's digital transformation. What are we going to do as an organization to move away from the way we used to process and compute just 5 or 6 years ago? What are we going to do to help move us into the future? Some of the things we did down in resident services that I thought was really nice is trying to get rid of all those forms. They used to drive me crazy. We have three different mutuals: the Towers, the Third, and United, and every single one of those mutuals had their own form. So I had, every mutual had 60 forms, and every there's like 200 forms down there, where we'd have residents come down to resident services. They would wait in line. They'd get a form. They'd fill the form out. Then they would go back in line again to turn the form in for my team to take that information, enter into the computer system, and then throw the form away. That didn't make sense to me at all. So we've changed a lot of that now. Now what we're doing, all of our forms are digitized now. So when you come to resident services, instead of handing you a form to fill out, they're going to take your responses and your questions, your service request, input it directly into the system. Why that's important, because now we can track them. Before, when you have a form, it gets dumped in the trash. Where did it go? Right. So we're doing much better at that. During last year, as you know, was hell on wheels. It was really tough for VMS. We actually, when they had the stay-at-home order, we took a 60-year-old company, brick and mortar, on-prem company, with all of our data going one way. We had to actually stop what we're doing, completely turn around the organization, and get all these employees working from home. So that was a tremendous undertaking for us to be able to get that done, and it wasn't easy. It took a lot of time and effort. Meanwhile, simultaneously on the broadband side of the house, we had upgrades and plans in place to upgrade the infrastructure for our internet services. We know West Coast Internet. I do business with West Coast Internet, and we had some massive upgrades planned for the very early part, first quarter of 2020 last year, because of the capacity issues, right? We know we have, my goodness, we have almost 11,000 internet subscribers now. In just in a couple of years, it's gone up several thousand. But what happened is once everybody was locked indoors and everybody started hitting the internet, it just totally wreaked havoc on all of our systems. Luckily enough, we already had the infrastructure in place. So once those, what we call the cable modem termination systems, once they went down, they were already racked and stacked and already powered. So once the systems that went down, we moved over half the community 1 week, and then the next week we moved the other half of the community of the other week. So that was really super tremendous effort. And then on top of that, we had to furlough several hundred employees. Can you imagine how heart-wrenching that is to say, sorry, we don't really need you right now, we're going to have to send you home? And that was really heartbreaking, especially a lot of our skilled trades guys, our guys who are doing work at home, the trade, the carpenter, plumbing, painting. anybody doing work indoors. And so it was real challenging to see those guys sit on ice for 3 or 4 months. Now, just because those guys weren't working doesn't mean, buildings never sleep, by the way. Just because you don't have anybody here working on something, that doesn't mean that all this maintenance stuff was going on. So it was a real challenge, real balancing act, getting the right trades in here to make sure that we're continuing to maintain the buildings, especially inside the manors when flood damage could be very challenging, especially on the 3-story the 3-story buildings. If you get somebody flooding on the 3rd floor, it leaks all the way to the 1st floor pretty quick. So plumbing was a big challenge for us as well. Another big thing that happened last year, another internet outage. There was up in, I think it's up in Torrance. There, we use West Coast Internet uses AT&T. All of our internet comes in. We have 2 10-gig pipes that come into the community to serve internet for our community, both coming out of different central offices. But on the back end in Los Angeles, both those central offices connected to one centralized location. So there was a fire, a homeless encampment caught on fire and burnt. I think it was something like 13 miles of cable were burnt out. And so it took us, so we had an internet outage this last year for about 3 days. And that was really, really, really unfortunate. So it was another, so last year was it was a year of crisis, not just from a COVID standpoint, but enable for us to be able to operate as a business and come through it on the other side. So really super challenging. Then at the end of last year, as you guys know, about a year ago, 3 days ago, we got hit with a ransomware attack, right? So I have some slides that we'll show you a little bit later, but another just crisis that we had to run through is it took us 2 or 3 months just to get back and stabilize to where we're at, and there are still things that we're still working on today to iron out and cover. And I'll get into that a little bit detailed. So just essentially last year, a year of crisis. This year, we're doing a lot better. We were still closed up until, I think, May. Our resident services, I think we just opened up in June of this year. And so about mid-June, I think June 15th or so, we opened up. And I have to tell you, after being closed for a year, the pent-up demand, even though we were doing everything over the phone, registering vehicles, getting new ID cards, and being able to take your service requests over the phone and via email, worked out really good from that standpoint. Even within, it was just a tremendous challenge. What else did we do last year? It was just brutal. Once that malware hit, though, we had. It took us months and months and months working around the clock with our entire IT staff. We had to bring in multiple different teams to help us out. We had Microsoft in here. First of all, when that actually happened, it happened on a Sunday at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. That Monday, we had the FBI here. We had Homeland Security here. We had Orange County sheriffs here. Their cyber division. And we had, thank goodness, Carlos, our security chief, Carlos Rawls, our security chief. He knew all the resources to call in to give us a hand. They helped us with resources. They helped us out tremendously to get us back up and running. So, again, a huge crisis. So that's what I was going to say is once we had resident services open back up, right, in June of this year, it was pretty slow for the first 2 weeks. But once word got out, we took 17,000 phone calls in the month of July. 17,000 phone calls. By the way, we only got 8 people answering the phones. Now, when I say that we got 17,000 phone calls, I'm not saying we answered them all because there's 17,000 phone calls, right? So I really apologize because you probably got calls, maybe you got a busy signal, maybe you got put on hold forever, maybe you just got exasperated and hung up the phone and maybe shot an email. Luckily enough, I think we had that pent-up demand. We got it sorted out. We're back down to about 12, I think looked this morning, about 11,000 phone calls in the month of September and about 5,000 walk-ins. So it's pretty busy, right? And people are like, people sometimes say they don't believe that type of activity is really happening, that type of volume is happening. But as you guys know, is every single phone call that comes in through to our community, everything's logged, everything's tracked, and everything's recorded as well, right? So between resident services, broadband services, and all the other phone calls, we're doing about, including gate clearance, we're doing about 400,000 phone calls a year. So that's pretty massive. And we're doing on average about 5,000 walk-ins. And you think, well, how do you know you have 5,000 people walking in your building? Well, you know that little kiosk you got to check in at? We're logging everything. We know who's there, we know why you're there, and we run reports on that. That's how we know when to peak. Everybody here, we're all creatures of habits. And we know what your habits are. We know what time you like coming to the community center. We know what time you like to call. And we try adjusting our staff accordingly, right? So you guys are early birds, right? You do a lot of your business in the morning time. I think our peak hours from 9 to 1. we're raging. But it tapers off from 1 to 5 in the afternoon. So if you do need to have a request or need type of service and you're not getting through, wait till later on in the afternoon. Especially, I think we get a lot of phone calls during the lunch hour. Lunch hours, by law, I've got to feed the humans, right? The humans do have to eat. So a lot of them, I have to stagger them. We stagger them in 15-minute increments. So we do lose some horsepower on during lunch periods. So calling on a Monday and calling at noon, your chances of getting through are pretty slim. I would say call Monday afternoon or call Tuesday because it's really, really busy. It's really, if you look at our busiest days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, super busy. Thursday tapers off. Friday, everybody's pretty chill around here. People are doing their thing and getting after their activities. So super appreciate that. All right, with that, I got lots of stuff I want to cover. Hopefully I'm not speaking too fast. How much time we got, Steve? 8:30. I'll give you 20 minutes, okay? All right, so digital transformation. What is that? It was like, wow, what are you talking about? What's this guy talking about? Digital, what does that mean? Well, here's what it is. Let's get a definition out there. Digital transformation is the adoption of technology or digital technology by a company to improve business processes, value for customers, and innovation. Right? Here's the thing about it is we tried doing things in a certain way last year from an information technology standpoint. Well, we were still running a data center like 2000, 2010, 2005. We had all of our servers here, all of our equipment here, everything on premise is what they call on-premise data shop. Right? We thought that was cost effective. We thought that was the most secure. But come to find out, that wasn't absolutely true. The plan that we're utilizing to be able to buy our own servers, to buy our own equipment, to buy our own software, have it stacked, racked and stacked and installed locally, that's just how things have been done for the last 25 years in technology. But we really learned really quickly, unless you have somebody, you have artificial intelligence, machine learning, and people watching the store every single minute of every single day, you're going to get taken advantage of. And we learned that really hard last year with that. So part of our digital transformation process is how can we take a 60-year-old company like Laguna Woods Village, move it from an on-premise analog world and move it into a digital world. Now, we do have a lot of digital services, don't get me wrong, but let's get everything into the cloud. Let's partner up with Microsoft, let's partner up with Amazon so they're watching the store and it's not somebody on my team who goes to sleep at night when the bad guys are out there not watching the store. So that's what we're trying to talk about, digital transformation, making sure we're taking everything that we're doing now and moving it to, don't be afraid, it's a new buzzword, the cloud. Everything's moving to the cloud, right? So that's what the whole idea is. We're pivoting, right? We're lifting and shifting and moving from 2019 technology to 2021 technology, and that's what we're going through right now. Here's why digital transformation is important. It used to be that Laguna Woods Village here out on the West Coast was really the biggest and largest game in town. That's changing a lot. Now we have to compete to be able to attract new members, people who want to live in the community. We want to be able to compete with the other retirement communities in the Southern California area and even the big retirement communities in Florida, right? We always have to attract the type of quality of residents that you want to have living in your community. So we have to be prepared for that, right? We have to do two things. One, we have to make sure that we're taking care of the residents that we have that live here now. The people that don't use computers at all, they're always going to pick up the telephone, right? But with the new retirees that are moving in now, they've worked with technology for the last 20, 30 years, right? So when they move into a community like ours, they're looking to have digital services. They want to be able to go online, to be able to do all their stuff online, just like they would with Facebook, Amazon, so on and so forth. So we have to stay competitive, we have to stay attractive, we have to be able to offer these services to make sure that we're getting the type of quality residents that we want, and we're providing them the services they want. But don't fear. Here's the thing was, I have this cute little quote that I always have, because we need to take care of our long-term residents, and we're going to need to take care of our new residents. And my plan is, it's no resident left behind, right? That's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little bit of both. We have to move away from all these phone calls and get the newer folks moved to the technology where they can be self-sufficient. They can do everything they can online, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, versus walking into the resident services. And we'll go through that. How are we going to do that? Well, we got a strategy to do that, right? We're trying to position all of our resources, our information technology spend, our resident services spend, looking at what we're spending now and what can we reallocate. Let's not allocate resources to paper and old school processes. Let's reallocate resources to workflows and digital assets that are online. So we do have a strategy, and we're working through that strategy now. Okay, I'm not going to get into this one, but what's the steps of our strategy? The first thing we want to do, and I won't go through everything here, but the first number one focus is, I think where we've lost in the past is, in the past we've really been investing from a VMS standpoint, investing in technology, looking at internally, looking at from an employee standpoint, But now with the digital transformation and things we're doing now, we want to make sure it's a customer focused. So with every dime, every investment that we make, we want to make sure it's customer focused, i.e. resident focused. We want to make sure that whatever spend we have, it's benefiting you directly. Okay. We always want to make sure we have an organized structure. We got to think about change management, transformational leadership. I'll spare that. But I have to tell you, what I've been challenged with is with the board of directors and with Jeff Parker, our CEO, is to be able to put together a game plan and a strategy to get us where we need to be in the future, right? So there's a lot of things there's a lot involved, right? There's a lot involved. But this is what we really want to know, right? The goals, right? What's the whole process of this here? The goals, obviously, increased efficiency, right? We need to get away from all the paper stuff that we're doing right now, and we've really done a lot of that down in resident services. But internally, we have a lot of work. It drives me crazy. I don't see any around here, but what drives me crazy is still one of our main communication apparatuses that we have in the organization is the yellow interoffice envelope. We're still using those. I'm like, guys, you don't have to do that. There's a scanner on every copier. There's a PDF creator on every computer. Why are you printing? They're printing off these documents, to putting them in an envelope, to routing them around on the mail cart. Let's get rid of that stuff, right? So we're looking at that. So we increased that efficiency. Also, collaboration. Why is collaboration important, right? Any large organization like ours, this is really a campus. This is not like one company. This is a campus, right? We got, 4 square miles of buildings and about 800 employees that are spread out over that campus. Collaborating through a yellow interoffice envelope is just not efficient, right? Utilizing modern technologies, not above and beyond email. Zoom, it's really been helpful with Zoom, GoToMeeting, all that kind of stuff. We really advanced a lot in this year, and that's really helping. Instead of having everybody driving around all day and wasting their time traveling back and forth, right? We're even internally looking at Zoom and GoToMeetings, that kind of stuff, to be more efficient internally for collaboration. Yes, sir.
I didn't see anything on there about your digital transformation goals about security
Yeah.
and avoiding ransomware.
Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, absolutely. Security's on there. Obviously, of course, security's on there. But I have a slide. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Thank you, though. And that's part of there. I should have added there, right there. I did have it down there. It must have came off my slide, security. It was right underneath stability. It must have went on the other page. But it's part about it. Stability is part of that. And then obviously increased productivity and competitive, contained cost, right? We know obviously everything's going crazy with inflation, right? Have you guys been to the market lately? Have you been to the gas station lately? Well, there's a lot of things. Insurance, I don't know if you guys heard, there's been a pretty big increase in insurance right here, right? Yeah. So I think there's some areas, I always look at efficiency is part of cost containment. There's 2 things you can do. You can contain costs. Whatever we're utilizing now, let's make sure that we can do it at a reduced cost. And then looking at efficiencies and productivity to find out other ways in the organization to reduce costs, right? That's part of the technology spend. What can we do to automate a lot of these manual processes? What can we do to automate a lot of the requests that we have going on right now, so we can do a better job with less resources, ultimately saving people money, right? Digital transformation, it comes with its challenges, right? As Steve had pointed out earlier, lack of dedicated skill set. Recreation alone has 25 open positions. Well, we have quite a few open positions in resident services, technology, and broadband services as well. It's not just here at the Laguna Woods Village. It's pretty much nationwide, right? Have you guys heard of this new term they're calling it? It's like the great quitting or something like that. We have so many of these employees that there's 10 million open positions in the country. It's really challenging. So it's really challenging for us. And particularly, what really challenging for us is having empty seats in our call center. Right now we have 4 empty seats in our call center, and it's really, really challenging. And you think, well, why don't you just go hire more people? Well, easier said than done. It's not like I can just grab somebody and then hire them off the street, put them in a chair, and have them answer the phone, because they don't know anything. There's a couple week or a month ramp up it takes me to get somebody up to speed, because right now when somebody comes and moves to our community, They don't know a mutual from a work center, they don't really know anything. So we have to take them through at least a 2-week training indoctrination to get them familiar with our corporate organization, our corporate structure, then another couple of weeks to teach them how to answer the phone calls and so on and so forth. So when we hire somebody, we actually have 2 new call center agents starting on Monday. It'll take us, a good 2 to 3 weeks just before we're comfortable with even putting them on the phone. So we're doing there. So challenges on the skill set front. Another challenge we have, this is not challenge, this is broad-based challenges, not necessarily challenges that we're having. It's just something that we're trying to avoid. A lack of organizational change management. I don't think we're going to have that in this particular community because this change management is coming from the boards, right? It's coming from licking our wounds from a malware event that happened last year, right? This is not something that I don't think is optional. This is something that we need to do to stay competitive, to stay secure, to do our processing going in the future, right? Of course, the ever-evolving customer needs. I have to tell you, needs really changed a lot last year, right, when everybody had to stay home. We had to learn how to pivot and shift and get all of our coupons out, our statements out, our lockbox operation, our banking operations, all that stuff had to continue to go while everybody was working from home, right? Lack of a defined strategy. A lot of companies, when they try doing a digital transformation or they do accounting software rollouts, there's a big chance that if they don't have a lack of a defined strategy, those projects fail. We have a really strong strategy. We have everybody on board with this. Every single work center, every single director, every single of our departmental managers, they're on board with making this shift, right, to a more efficient cloud-based computer system. But hey, there's budget concerns and the constraints, right? We know that anytime you add new technology to the environment, costs go up. So what we're looking at every single thing that we're doing now, what can we get rid of, right? What can we collapse? If we get rid of old systems and collapse them down to one ERP solution, where can we find some cost savings to help neutralize any additional expense that we're bringing on to move to a cloud-based computing system? We want to find things that we're doing now to reduce that cost. So hopefully it'll be a net neutral on the budgets. Long term, here's one thing that's really cool about the long term capital expense. We have 2 different types of expenses, right? We have operating expenses that we do on a month-to-month basis. Then we have capital expense that's budgeted through reserves over a 30-year period. There are some capital expenses that I'm really looking to get rid of over the next couple of years because by moving to the cloud, right? We don't need a data center anymore. You have the cloud, right? We don't need to have our own phone system anymore. You use voice over IP. Looking at all these things to try reducing costs with what we're doing now to move to the cloud, right? And hopefully, I think we looked at it by this plan, the strategy that we have in place. It's like a $9 million over the next 30 years. It's like a $9 million savings and not replacing a lot of hardware. Because why? Because we're moving it into the cloud. So, and another thing is, and what we're really struggling with on here on inefficient business processes. There's a lot of processes here at our organization that I think are super inefficient. And we're trying to get a handle on those. I think there is so much details behind all the rules and regulations that we have here, all of our resolutions that are passed by the board. I don't know if you've seen, but GRS has a resolution book. I don't know if you've seen it. The binder, I swear that binder is it's a 3-ring binder that big. I didn't know they made 3-ring binders that big, but it's about that big. And so all of that stuff has to be programmed into the system. So what that does, it leads to red tape creep. So we have a lot of these bloated process, scope creep, red tape. This is like red tape, right? It adds a lot of red tape. And so when you have a lot of red tape, it takes a lot of people to process some of these packages. And so we're really trying to look at that and streamline. And the 2 biggest areas that we're focusing on now is the resale process, coming in and buying a home here. Have you seen the packages? You most recently, the package, it's 100 pages long, right? And it's the same form over and over and over again. So we're really looking at just stop it. Let's not do that. But all those, I have to tell you, that those forms aren't requested by us. Those forms are requested by the board, right? And they want to see them. So we're working on trying to streamline that process. And the other area that I'm focusing on right now is the manner alteration and permitting process. We know that there's a lot of folks out there that want to do, modest changes to their floor plan, their appliances, so on and so forth. And we know it's a challenge because there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. We've been doing, the problem with not the problem, but the inefficiency part of the manor alterations is this community is 60 years old. So you have to go through 60 years worth of plans to be able to find out, hey, is that alteration? Is that when they come in and do an inspection and they say, wow, there's a new laundry room here. How did that laundry room get here? They go on, look up the blueprints, the as-built. Hey, that laundry room's not supposed to be here, right? And sometimes some of those changes are so old, they've got to go back to microfilm from like the 90s. From any time before 1995, everything's still on microfilm. Anything from 95 going forward is all digitized. So it's quite a deal. They've got to do, we still have a microfiche room here, right? And so we're still looking at that stuff. So that's definitely a challenge. But that's the areas I'm trying to focus on, the resale process and that permitting process to really make it really efficient. You know why? Because it's all paper-based. We want to go all electronic. Digital services. What does the digital transformation mean to you guys? Now, you may not realize, but just can you hear me? I got battery over here. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. There we go. There we go. Oh yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, great. So what does all this mean? Right, listen, this guy running his mouth up here. So what does it all mean? What we're trying to do is provide services to the community that's going to make things more convenient for you. When I came on board about 5 years ago, we had a website. That's all we had, website. There was nothing that any of our residents were able to do. You weren't able to process credit cards. Hell, we couldn't even until recently be able to take credit cards down at the front desk at resident services. It was all cash, right? Cash or check. Well, that's changed. You can definitely use your credit cards down there now. We have credit card readers in the system that takes payments down there. But if you look at this list, check it out. Since I've been on board over the last, I guess 3 or 4 years, 5 years here, these are some of the things that you're able to do now by going online, right? Right now, it's not as efficient as we want it to be because there's multiple different systems, but we're working on simplifying it, making it a single login for you to be able to do all of this stuff. But I'll provide information. I'll have to send you a slide deck of how you guys can do this stuff. But you could definitely, sometimes if you're struggling and you can't get a hold of somebody in resident services, you can go online and submit your service request online. You can do it from the community website, or you can log into your own resident portal and you can submit a request. I like those requests when they come in because they're all logged, right? It makes it more efficient for us. You can register. One thing that we learned to do is registering vehicles over the phone, right? This last year, because we were all closed, that doesn't mean people's cars don't break down, people get new cars, so we still registered several thousand vehicles last year, but we did it in the mail. So if you can't make it to the community center, we can get your vehicle registered over the phone if you just send us a copy of your, I think it's a copy of your, help me out guys, the registration, send me a copy of your registration, we can get that done. Now, one thing that we can't do for you is we can't put the RFID, we don't want to send the RFID to you on the mail. We want you to come up to the resident services to put it on there. We tried it a few times, but sometimes people you'll be surprised where people put the RFID decal, they put it on their rear view mirror, put it on their windshield, they put it on the bumper. So, and those things are like $15 each, so we don't want to, they're pretty expensive. So you still have to come up to get your RFID at the community center. Another thing you can do online is register your guest, right? You have Dwelling Live, you're able to go online. I know sometimes late at night, you might need to have somebody come into the guest. There's no staff taking phone calls during the daytime, and the phone calls go out to the gates right at nighttime. Sometimes you can't get a hold of somebody. That's okay. I mean, 24 hours a day, you can always use Dwelling Live to go online, register guests, and/or print passes. On our resident portal, there's things that you can do as well. You can check your account balance. I mean, this is all novel stuff, right? I mean, we should have been doing this 20 years ago, right? Yeah. You check your account balance and pay your assessments online. You can pay both your assessments and your chargeable services online through the resident portal. You can definitely do that. And Steve, I'll send you handouts on how to do this as well. Okay. Another thing you do is you can update your emergency contacts. I think it's always so important. I think what we used to do is send out an emergency contact form every year, fill it out. Again, more paperwork. Fill out the form, send it back, mail it back to the resident services. Somebody takes the form, they enter the form into the system, we take the form, and guess what? We throw it in the trash. Well, now you can go online and you can update your own emergency contacts. So that's really important. We have a new ticketing system over at Clubhouse 3. So if you ever want, you don't have to go down to the box office any longer. You can actually go online and purchase tickets online. And then you could reserve rooms. I know we're having challenges with staffing right now on some of these room reservations, but you guys don't realize we got like 110 rooms that we rent out all throughout the campuses. And with the short staff, that's why there's limited hours. We're 27 people short in recreation. That's why they're limiting hours. But you can actually go online and reserve a room. Also, you can now, if you're an avid golfer and you want to be able to make some tee times, you can actually reserve and make tee times online as well. And then over the tennis court, of the paddle tennis and the table tennis, or not the table tennis, excuse me, the regular tennis, you can actually go online and reserve a court. And then I didn't know that till I talked to Brian earlier today, Brian Gruner, our recreation director. I guess they're actually reserving swim lanes too now, and you can do that online as well. So just a few short years ago, you couldn't do any of this. You had to come down to recreation, or you had to come down to resident services to do that. So I'll send you guys some flyers, some information that you guys can actually learn how to do this, and do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, when it's convenient for you. And you can do it from your smartphone, you can do it from your tablet, you can do it from your desktop. So that's what I mean, digital transformation. Like, we need to be able to have these kind of services for our new residents who are moving in to get more efficient. I have to tell you, taking 400,000 inbound phone calls, you know how expensive that is? That's super expensive. If we can get at least a decent percentage of our residents to be able to use some of these online tools, we can reduce headcount, which ultimately reduce cost. Looking at our dwelling live figures, just give you kind of some stacks. We in dwelling live at guest management, we're entering about 30 to 35,000 new guests every single month. Out of those 30 to 35,000 guests that get entered into the system every month, the vast majority of them are done by resident services and/or at the gates. But did you guys know about 5,000 to 6,000 of those guests are done by residents? Residents go on. There's about 20% of all of our guests that are entered into the system are done by residents. We'd like to see that be 50, 60, 70, 80%, because what does that do? It reduces staff time and ultimately contains costs or reduce costs, because we don't have to have that many people answering the phones. I got so much more to say, but I know I got so much time. I'd be happy to talk about malware. Let's talk about security, right? What are we doing from that? Well, it's a super challenge. One of the things that we've done over the last year, the entire infrastructure of the whole entire community, every single transceiver, every single network switch, every single router, every single firewall, every single the fiber optic cable, network cabling had to be replaced. The challenge was, people always think, hey, you guys got that ransomware. Did you guys pay the ransom? Well, in this particular case, we had to. We had two backup systems we had here. We had a primary backup system at the community center, and a secondary backup solution at the broadband services building. These particular bad actors, Russian, a professional thief, professional terrorist organization from, I forgot the name of the hacking group, definitely infiltrated into our network through email. It came in through an email, believe it or not. Somebody got an email. It looked like an invoice. Hey, and it looked like it came from somebody you knew. Excel spreadsheet, double-clicked on it. Wow, there's an invoice for $500. I don't know whose this is, but at the very bottom of that email, there was a script that went out to the internet that copied the virus onto that computer. And so once it copied itself, then it found its another computer connected to it. It would copy it to the other computer, and then it would delete itself off the original computer. So like a domino effect. So over like a 3 or 4 day period, like a week period, it is slowly creeped through. And you run a virus scan, there's no virus in it. The virus is in memory. It's a virtual virus. It's in memory. It's not a file any longer, but it's in your virtual memory. So that was just horrible. That happened. So that virus, it spread throughout all of our different areas of the community. And then on October 17th, 2020, I'll never forget the day, they executed the virus and locked up all the computers. Right, locked up all the computers. So I have to tell you, I'm a changed person. When you hear about ransomware and that kind of stuff, you always think about, that's always, being in the IT world, you think that's always priority. You have different types of backup solutions, antivirus, spam filters, all that kind of stuff. You think, oh, I think we're good to go, man. We're using best practices. But best practices from 2 years ago aren't best practices today. Matter of fact, best practices in 2020 are already outdated. It's happening so fast and it's changing so quickly that we've actually had, we moved all of our security apparatuses, we're moved it to a third-party company. We had to go to a company that's mining the store every single day, every single minute of the day. They're in a network operating system. They do security monitoring for companies all over the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, where they're the ones that are watching the store for us every single day. One of the things is like, well, how come you didn't have any antivirus? Well, we did have antivirus. This type of antivirus, type of virus, it's not a file-based virus. It's a memory-based virus. So the antivirus solution that we had, I think it's, you guys heard of McAfee, right? McAfee? Or it wasn't McAfee, but it was something similar to that. It just didn't work. And so now we have multiple layers of security on each of these PCs that capture the new type of emerging viruses. So another thing that we did, we have a very large network here. I don't know if you guys know that. We have a very large fiber optic network here. 32 nodes, feeds the whole entire community. There's 20 miles of fiber optic cable here. Essentially, how we were running our community, especially our business services, we were running on a network, right? And so that network was all connected to our head end over here at the community center. And so once that virus got out, it leaked throughout the whole entire network. We've changed that. Now each individual building has its own private network. So if there ever is a situation in the future where a virus does get out, it'll only impact that one small segment of the network instead of letting it go. Yes?
It didn't creep into our personal.
No, it came in through a separate, the two 10 gigabit lines from AT&T that went to your homes, it didn't come in through that at all.
It didn't flow down to us, did it?
No, yeah. It just came by. The only computers that were really impacted were all of our internal computers. Luckily enough, from a forward-facing standpoint, it was really pretty much invisible for you. We had a couple days of tough phone. We had to rebuild the phone system, and email had a tough couple days. But as far as like Dwelling Live, the resident portal, the community website, Granicus, all these other tools we use, they all stayed online. The systems that were directly impacted was our day-to-day business systems. That was really challenging, really crushed us. So between with the investment in new hardware and software, with investment in segregating all of our network out into smaller chunks, and also using a third-party security auditing firm and a security monitoring firm, I mean, we're at the best of the best. Not only that, but a lot of the main processing that we do, we've moved it into, I don't want to get too technical. Have you guys heard of AWS, Amazon Web Services? Amazon Web Services, right? Or have you heard of Azure, Microsoft Azure? These are areas where we don't keep any of our servers or any of our information there. We keep it secured behind. We have Microsoft. We're running on Microsoft's equipment, not our own equipment here locally. We're running on Amazon's equipment, not our own equipment here locally, yeah.
Are you using cloud source?
Oh, they're using Cloudflare. I don't know about CrowdSource. I'm not sure. They use Cloudflare. It's a load balancing tool where they can actually, CloudSource, that was a service that also got infected as well, right? Earlier this year from a malware through what was that? I forgot the name of the software, but no, they're not using that software. CloudSource, yeah. They use something called Cloudflare, a little different. That's a load balancing tool. Yes?
So how much did we have to pay?
So that, people say, oh my God, you had to pay millions of dollars. No, the price tag was $250,000, which is horrible, $250,000. The problem was I was willing to let it burn. No, it's $250,000.
Yeah, we all say 350. That's
350.
awesome.
Yeah, 250. Yeah, well, it does sound better, but I have to tell you, we had to buy a lot of replacement gear, right? So there is some other replacement costs, from software, hardware, but the actual ransom payment itself was $250,000. Yeah. I was going to let the whole operation burn, right, and just start from scratch, but then we started talking with all of our maintenance. Then you got all your blueprints, all of your, all of the component records of all the individual manners, all the vehicle information. You started looking at all that stuff that you can't replace. Because I was like, scrap it, let's move forward. And then once maintenance got involved, it's like all the floor plans and we have millions and millions and millions of dollars of AutoCAD drawings. You guys, all the blueprints, all of our blueprints have been digitized, millions of dollars of blueprints. Everything, anything you could possibly think of, we have it on a blueprint, anything. So that was the deal. That was all of our, any of the resale packages that we have, we needed all that stuff. It was everything. It was like, I had no choice. I'm like, that's what it is. During that time, the recovery process took about 3 months of recovery. The first thing that we had to identify, though, and get up and running was communications, right? Phones, email. So we worked on that, got that up and running. Now, by the way, it took us 4 weeks to negotiate. We actually, I felt like I was living in a Tom Clancy novel. It was crazy. Because once we had the Homeland Security and the FBI came in, we also had a cyber negotiator, cyber ransom negotiator that worked on our behalf to be able to negotiate directly with Russia. I can't speak Russian. Can you guys? I can't speak Russian. That directly communicated with this bad actor group, and they did everything through the dark web. Ever heard of the dark web? Right? And then all the transactions were done in incremental bitcoins. You guys heard of Bitcoin, digital currency? Yeah. No, it was a full-on operation. I learned a lot. I'd like to say that I didn't have to learn that lesson, but I did.
You do a movie here and video.
You could, yeah, you could do it, right? It was crazy.
What did I say, what,
That would
your
be a
whole,
big hit, right?
your whole
On Channel
presentation,
6?
how come it's not on Channel 6?
Oh, some of it was, some of it has been. Yeah, it was. Some of it has been. They've done some recordings and whatnot.
Some of it has been what?
Recorded. No. So he's asking, well, how come you haven't done this presentation online? Some of it is in the process of being, yeah. Some of it would be. Some of it will be. They tried getting Debbie. I don't know if you guys saw Debbie Dotson did a piece called Let's Talk Tech. There was a lot. She came in and interviewed me about this same stuff that we're talking about now, and they put it out there. But it's hard to capture everybody. You know, not everybody watches TV6 or watches gets the email blast and
Or how
so.
can we get it? Through YouTube or through our website?
Yeah, through YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah, it's called Let's Talk Tech by Debbie Dotson.
Mentioned that we have our camera recording this here,
Oh,
and so
right.
it'll be on our YouTube site.
Okay, great.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, so the presentation tonight is being recorded, and so we'll put it on the Video Club's YouTube page, and so you get a chance to, yeah, so that'd be great. Let's see, what else, lessons learned. So anyhow, the recovery process, 3 months, and we burnt through everybody, everybody that we had working. We worked for 3 months straight, 7 days a week, multiple teams. We had a team from Microsoft, team from Cisco, team from FortiGate, team from CyberClan. I mean, it was an all hands, all effort to get this thing up and running, working around the clock for 3 months. We burnt through almost every single staff member that we have. We burnt right through them. Now we have new networking people. We have a new IT manager. We had an IT manager that worked here for 30 years. He's like, I'm out of here later. And he moved out of town. In combination, by the way, by doing this, we're in the middle of a pandemic too. It was just so surreal. I mean, it was just like unbelievable. I like to think that, I don't want to call it lucky, but I'm just glad we weren't fully open, right? Everything was still shut down and nobody was there, nobody's at the business, because it would have been hell on wheels, right? Then, because we were already at a point where everybody was already working from home, no impact to the people at home. We already got all of our internet, your in-home internet stuff. It was already squared away months beforehand. So it was just brutal. Slowly but surely, what we started doing, once we started focusing on the communications, getting that back up and running. By the way, that ransom took 4 weeks, by the way. Took 4 weeks before we got the encryption key. People say, well, how come you just can't get the encryption key and unencrypt everything? Well, because you don't know how they got in, right? Well, at the time we didn't. Because as soon as you turn that back on, who knows what other kind of stuff was running there. So every single PC was reformatted, every single cell phone was reformatted, every single server was reformatted, everything was wiped out and burned down to the ground and started from scratch. We threw out tons of junk and stuff like that to get it going, because otherwise you didn't know what other little back door they had in there. So with the security auditing firm that we have come in, they gave us a clean bill of health, so we're looking really good. Now there are some. I'm not saying everything's perfect and everything's peachy cream, because there's a lot of things that we forgot how to do sometimes. Over time, when you use something over and over for such a long time, you kind of forget how it works, and so sometimes, instead of you trying to figure out how something works, you have to rebuild it. And so we spent a lot of times rebuilding some of the stuff, especially on the software side. There's a lot of software applications that we've had that were developed 20, 25 years ago. They're like, do we really need to be using Visual Basic anymore? Yeah, COBOL. I have to tell you, it wasn't COBOL, but it was one step above COBOL. That's, yeah, for sure. But I think we're looking really good now. We've since moved all of our information that we've had, which has resident personal information. We've moved that all to the cloud. It's secure. If it's on Microsoft and Amazon, it's as secure as it could possibly be, right? And we have our information being backed up, and both in Microsoft's data center as well as Amazon's data center. So we're using cloud-based backups. So we are still back. We still have a primary backup system here and at the head end, but all that stuff's being replicated to both Amazon as well as Microsoft. So, and if Microsoft and Amazon both go down at the same time, there's probably a good chance we're going to have bigger fish to fry then, right? So let's hope that won't happen. So So there's been a whole hell of a lot done on the security standpoint. We actually, during your 30-year reserves that you have here, every 5 years there's money that's budgeted through reserves to replace all your networking components. We were doing that every 5 years. We've had to change that, right? We need to start taking a look at changing it down to a yearly cycle where we're redoing all of our security on an annual basis, getting it audited and reconfirmed and recommissioned on an annual basis. So luckily enough, we had funds budgeted in the 2022 budget that we moved forward into 2021 to be able to get this work done. So from an operating standpoint, from a budgetary standpoint, we came in last year a bit over budget because of the hardware it had to be, but it was plus or minus 5%, and then we're looking pretty good this year as well. I think we're plus or minus 2.5% to budget. Next year is going to be a bit different because we're going to be moving our accounting system into the cloud. We'll probably be moving to Dynamics 365. I don't want to get too technical, but it's a cloud-based accounting system versus the accounting system that we're using now. More information about that. So we're trying to do everything. Security is top priority, right? I should have had a couple extra slides for you. So anything security related, I can ask for you.
Cloud overload.
Well, here's the thing about it. The good thing is on cloud overload. He said, "What about cloud overload?" The good thing is we've had to really boost up our internet connectivity here for Laguna Woods Village. So for employees, the overload for the residents. You guys are the resident-facing systems like Dwelling Live, the portal, it's already in the cloud. No problem for you guys. The problem would be for internal employees getting access to data and resources. But what we've done is we added 2 additional internet connections. So if one of those internet connections go down, it faults over, and we can go out. Now, also another godsend here. Lucky enough that we had everybody working from home already last year, so they were going from their home internet to Amazon and not coming directly to us. So I think last year cloud overload would have been a big deal. This year I think we're good to go. Yeah, we added a lot of capacity there.
You're open for questions now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, you keep talking about you're preparing for the future.
Mm-hmm.
The future.
Uh-huh.
The future.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking about Starlink.
Starlink.
Starlink is suborbital transmission of
Yep.
data.
Right.
That's already operating
Right.
in the 100,000
Mm-hmm.
locations today.
Right.
And they expect to implement it
Mm-hmm.
in 2023.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I asked Paul Ortiz
Mm-hmm.
with our broadband group,
Mm-hmm.
he said, "What's Starlink?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
Starlink, it's a geosynchronous satellite mesh system that provides internet wirelessly globally, right? So here's the thing about it is we're going to let Microsoft, Amazon, and Verizon handle that piece. We're going to get services from them. They're going to be utilizing that service. We won't be going directly onto Starlink, but our partners with Amazon, Microsoft, and Verizon, because Verizon is our cell phone carrier, we'll let those guys interface with Starlink because that's above our pay grade here, right?
why wait for them?
Well,
Why not do it yourself?
good point. I mean, we'll have to take a look at it, but I don't think we want to be in the network engineering business, right? I'd rather just buy the services from Microsoft, right? Right. I don't know. Don't even know. I don't even know what business are actually using it. I know one thing we're focusing on is the 5G network with Verizon. 5G is coming down the pipe. That's going to be a big game changer. Whatever Verizon's using for Wi-Fi technology that we're using now, we're going to stick with Wi-Fi. Let's let Verizon invest in Starlink because that's I think above and beyond the need of a homeowner association. We don't want to be an engineering firm. We want to be a homeowner association, retirement community. Let's partner with the experts so they can stay up to breast on that. That's my thought on that.
Well, I moved away from Verizon and went to Consumer Cellular for my cell phone because I'm
Sure.
saving about 70% a month.
Mhm.
That's my HOAs.
Yep.
How you going to keep looking annually or whenever with our phone systems? Because
Sure.
the pricing on Verizon, I'm sorry, I think is outrageous.
I'm really glad that we're actually going through that right now. Basically this we have 6 plans we have with Verizon. We have 3 plans for this is for employee stuff, right? This is for laptops, so on and so forth. We have 3 we have devices, like tablets. We have 3 plans for tablets. We have, I think a 4 gig plan, a 2 gig plan, and a 200 megabyte plan. So we have 3 plans for our devices, and we have 3 plans for our smartphones. We've got about 100 or so smartphones out there. We have a $75 plan, a $65 plan, and a $40 plan. Good news, because about 100 of our devices came up for renewal, we had some bargaining leverage with Verizon. We went out and hired a telecom broker, and they went out and shop with T-Mobile, oh goodness, Sprint, and one other carrier. And so they came back with these quotes to Verizon and say, hey, we're going to buy 100 new phones, go to the service. And so what we've done, instead of having 6 different plans at all those different price points, now we're going to consolidate all of that onto a single plan. Every single device will be $30 a month.
With
Yeah.
Verizon?
Yeah, for Verizon.
I didn't wanna lose it. Okay,
Exactly.
negotiate.
Yeah. So the thing about it is, when we were originally negotiating and dealing with Verizon employees, they're like, oh, you got the best deal, you got the best deal. We're like, wait a minute, hold on a second. So we went with a broker who deals with all of those different things, and he just shopped it all around and said, look, hey, we can get XYZ price from T-Mobile. If you're not willing to meet it or beat it, we're moving down the road. And
Fix our fire insurance.
yeah, right, yeah.
T-Mobile service in this area is getting really bad.
Is it? Yeah.
Because they
Yeah.
have the emergency Sprint.
Yeah. And that's one thing people will say is like, I've got really crappy Verizon service over here. Our topography around here is pretty hilly around here, and so we do have some dead spots in the community, and we've been time and time again thinking, we're trying to get Verizon folks in here. We actually had hired a consulting firm a couple years ago with Ernesto Munoz, I don't know who that is, and they came out and did a site survey for us, and we gave them some areas where they wanted to put together a cell site. We thought, it's a given. We won't put it at the top of the hill at gate 14. That cellular technology doesn't work like that. You want to have it, it's got to be kind of pretty much at level ground, right? So we had, I think it was an area over by vehicle maintenance, over the maintenance yard, 14. We gave them a couple different areas, and they came out and did a site survey. They're like, well, how many new subscribers are we going to get if we get invested in this tower? And I'm like, well, I can't guarantee that everybody in the community can be a Verizon customer. So they're like, if we invest millions of dollars and we're not getting additional subscribers, it wasn't worth the squeeze. So we have gone out and looked at adding additional cell capacity. They tell us they're adding capacity all the time. I use Verizon. I don't have any problems here. It's a lot better than it used to be. You guys have good service here for Verizon? No? No, it's pretty crappy.
I just left Verizon because we've got so many problems.
Yeah.
No, I'm with consumer cellular, but it's not easy in here. It doesn't matter where you
Yeah.
are, the phones are wrong.
You have to go outside and make
You
that
have to go
call.
outside
Yeah.
online, 'cause-
Yeah, I heard.
Chuck, do you prefer that we go through your website, which I have some issues with, if you're not, it's not real, I mean, you type in dwelling live, you can't find it, somebody's got to start using the website and kind of fixing a few of the searching, it's not that easy.
Got it.
But, do you prefer, when I'm kind of an I always find things that need to be fixed around here. Do you want me to go through the website to turn in a request for whatever, the sprinkler heads are always being hit by the
You can-
mowers. Do you want me to go that way? Forget the phone.
Right.
Or do you want me to go through resident services, email?
Email's fine, because
Are they trackable?
absolutely. So essentially, if you logged into your resident portal and submitted a request, it gets logged.
What do you prefer?
No, it doesn't matter, as long as you do, because they all go to the same location, resident services.
Okay, and then I like to pay my HOAs for 6 months or a year ahead. I also have a rental in here.
Yeah.
Can I pay for it online? Is it pretty safe if I do it through the resident portal?
Yeah, we're not hosting any of the credit card provider that we use is called RevoPay. They specialize in a homeowner association.
That's my check.
Right, yeah.
An e-check.
Right. So the best way to do it is to sign up for auto debit, Easy Pay, and it automatically gets deducted from your account. There's a form on the website.
I have to pay ahead.
Pay ahead. I don't think you can't do it online. You can't pay ahead because you can only pay your open balance.
How safe is it?
It's as safe as we can be. It's a competitor of PayPal. PayPal's one of the top line. It's called RevoPay. It's not PayPal. It's called RevoPay. They really specialize in the homeowner association space, so they're PCI compliant, all the stuff. They do all the credit card the link that we have on the resident portal, when you click that link to make a payment, it goes to their system. So We're not hosting any credit card information here, so it's as safe as you can make it. Revo Pay, that's if you get a chance to take a look at that. Yeah, I think we're getting a pretty good deal, $30 a phone on, there's obviously some taxes and stuff like that, but it's pretty good, better than, $65 a month, yeah, 75.
Times 100.
Yeah, times on, yeah, it's 106 lines we have, 52 phones and the rest are tablets. Any other questions out there? No? Come on. Yes, sir.
This may not be directly related to what you're talking about, but cable service is under you, right?
Now it's under Eileen Paulson. It used to be, but I can answer a lot of questions though, because I used to oversee it.
I know.
Yeah.
Do we still support those non-HDTV viewers?
Okay, so we have 3 different types of customers that we have here, right? We have customers who have a TV, and you take the cable and you plug it directly into the TV, and then you have to scan the TV to pick up your channels. That's basic cable. That's basic cable. Now, you can't, the old tube TV, see that tube TV back there? Those are not going to work on there because a lot of the content is. We've got rid of all the analog channels a couple years ago. Now we're getting rid of all the standard definition channels, and here pretty shortly, all the channels are going to be in HD. And those older TVs, you can't plug directly into them to get the service. Now, for the older, if you have an older TV, you can get a DTA. It's called the DTA, a digital transmitter. It's like $7 a month, and that old TV will work. But looking at $7 a month over a 4 or 5 year period, you might as well just get a flat panel TV.
$200.
Yeah, get a flat panel TV. Now, am I running out of time?
No, I just want to take over whenever you're done.
Oh, okay, great. So another thing we have is with those flat panel, since we got rid of analog, we removed a bunch of channels. Now we're getting rid of standard definition. We removed a bunch of channels. Keep an eye out on your emails and information about that because the whole channel lineup is going to be reorganized to make it simpler. Because right now you can see the same channels on 3 or 4, 100, 800, 600, all that kind of stuff. The 8s, the 6 are coming, yeah, 6. So the reason why is you're going to have one channel for everything. It's the same channel.
Oh, good.
It's the same. It's so.
Where's the lineups? Or can we get it?
Yep, online. Yep, you can.
Website?
Yep, you sure can.
Keep them updated on
Yep,
the
yep. You can go to LagunaWoodsVillage.com, and then you go to cable television, and there's also a Channel 6 guide out there, so you can see all the free movies. And then there's also the channel lineup. Depending on the service, you have a couple different services. So you have your direct plugged in, you have your DTA, your little tiny boxes, then you have your set-top boxes. And so when you have the set-top boxes, it's like $15 a month, you get all the channels, right? And then you have the DVR service where you can record your own shows. I think it's like $19. And then you have the whole home DVR, which I think is really cool if you have a smart TV, where you can actually get the whole home DVR and then watch content and record content in any room in your house, all cooked up to one centralized DVR. That's pretty cool as well. Yeah, it's TiVo. It is TiVo. The whole home DVR is TiVo. Exactly. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Can we buy our own transceiver and not stop paying rent every month?
I'll have to ask. I'm not for sure because there's licensing. Because every single person that we have, since you're your own cable franchise here, for every single manor that has TV, there's a fee that we have to pay. So I don't think so. But try. Here's something you could try. You might get a good experience with this if you plug directly into your TV and scan. You get a pretty good lineup. You get most of.
Yeah, it's like putting an antenna on the window.
Yeah.
I'm in a hole, right?
Right. But they come in clearer than the antenna.
Excuse me, Chuck.
Yes.
I have, when I moved in here in 2012, I bought all TiVo receivers. We had 3 TV sets. We still do. We still have a TiVo in each one of them. And they're getting a little long in the tooth, and I want to replace them. When I initially hooked up to the service, the cable service, your team came out and hooked me up, plugged in the chips that are necessary
Right. Yeah.
in TiVo.
Right.
And working with TiVo, instead of doing the monthly thing, I signed up for the lifetime service. So instead of 11 or 12 bucks a month, it was $400, but I don't have to pay it anymore.
So Steve was grandfathered in that. So we used to sell these chips for if you wanted to get your own TiVo, your own device. We used to do that. but there was a licensing fee for the chip that the people who bought weren't paying. So we discontinued that service because it was costing a lot of money. Sorry, Steve, but your grandfathered in. We're not doing that service anymore, so that's why, yeah. So the DTA that we get, you have to get the TiVo that you can get through broadband services.
Do we need to upgrade those every couple of years?
They, no, hopefully, run them until they burn out. Run them until they burn out, yeah. The challenge is, they're newer technology, so they have an external power source and no spinning hard drives, SD hard drives, and so they should last a long time.
And can you give me that website again, Laguna Woods something?
Village.com.
Village.com?
Yep,
I'm always having a problem.
yep. I'm sorry, I felt like I didn't answer your question.
Well, it's kind of dead.
Okay, through Steve. Yeah, there's just no free, besides for plugging directly in, there is no free option.
I can't just buy my own transceiver and
No, you can buy your own internet cable modem, though. You can do that. If you're renting that, you can buy your own cable modem. But that's not your question, no. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, so the old TV user, the $96 for the DTA box, but how much do we spend to provide a service for them?
Well, the monthly,
They pay for themselves, or-
it's about $325. The licensing fee for that box is about $325 a month. So we're charging $6.99, $7.99, I think $6.97, $7.25, I think. And so there's a little bit of markup to help offset the cost for programming. So there's definitely, it's not free. Nothing's free. Yeah.
But this HDTV standard come from the old days when Obama became a president.
Yeah.
That's 15 years ago. Shouldn't we stop providing service,
Oh.
stop spending money?
Oh, we are. Yes, that's part of, we had all those old analog stations, we got rid of all of that stuff. The standard definitions, we got rid of all of that stuff too. So right now, we're only broadcasting at HD now. So all that channel, we used to have to provide 3 different signals. We had 3 sets of equipment at the head-end building. He had all the analog equipment, he had all the standard definition equipment, and he had all the high definition equipment. We've blown all that whole thing out. We're saving big time money on energy. All that old analog stuff's gone, SD stuff's gone, and so now, we're actually, what we're doing, we're containing cost. I like that term, containing cost. We're containing cost, right? So because here's what it was. It used to be back in the day when you had analog channel. One channel, you needed to have one, not at the head end, you needed to have one receiver for one channel. So if you had 150 channels, 200 channels, you needed to have 200 individual receivers sucking up all that power, right? Then standard definition came out. You could get about 5 channels on one receiver. Much more efficient, right? So still needed 50, 60 boxes. HD, on the HD converters, you could bring 14 channels into one HD converter. So now that head-end building over there now, it used to be like 5 racks of all kinds of equipment. We're down to 1 rack now because it's all HD now. It's all super energy efficient. You can get 14 channels on one receiver. So we've done a tremendous amount of work over there. Yeah, there's redundancy, yeah. The only thing that's not redundancy, we have the Simulsat satellite dish that we have. It takes feeds from 14 different simultaneous satellites. Every once in a while, when there's like, I'm serious, when there's like a solar flare, sometimes it does interrupt. That's a real deal. Solar flares are real, and it'll knock out some of our channels periodically, where we've got to get out there and tinker on that satellite dish. Anyhow, I'm just going to wrap it up, Steve, and go home and get some dinner. I'm sure my wife and my dogs are waiting for me. What time is it? 8:15, yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yes, indeed, we appreciate that. I have a gift for you.
No problem. Don't thank you for not throwing tomatoes at me.
You know, all those things you keep track of, here's a place to put them.
Oh, I got the video back. Right, nice.
You're,
My new gym bag.
there you go.
Let me grab my laptop and
Well, thank you, Chuck.
yeah.
You dump more information per minute.
He wants his mic back.
More information per minute than any speaker we usually have. He's a good one. All right, thank you very much again, Chuck. Appreciate it. All right.
Oh, I need my bag. My new gym bag.
All right, and I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. We appreciate your being here. Don't forget, next month we'll be over in Village Greens for our monthly meeting.